This is probably the last meeting, right, for the year, obviously. I'd like to just touch on, with the Boston Police and here at District 7, we talk about our Part 1 crimes. Our Part 1 crimes are broken down into 10 separate crimes. We go from, homicide, robbery, rape, domestic violence, commercial burglary, residential burglary. Those are our Part 1 crimes. Those are our most serious, and we have 10 different categories. So for the year 2020, it looks like we're going to end up with an increase in some of our Part 1 crimes. I think I mentioned at last month's meeting that the driving force for the big increase were the car breaks. We still continue to have some car breaks, not as many as we were having earlier. In the spring, we were really, I believe, when the pandemic first hit, and a lot of the shutdowns, we saw that there was a big increase in the car breaks. So we're probably going to end the year with a 100% increase in our car breaks, which means in 2019 we had 100, and in 2020 we're going to have about 200, which is a huge increase. I've never really seen that much of an increase in car breaks and really in any one of our Part 1 crimes here in East Boston. But thankfully, the other ones are pretty much holding steady. So that is really a driving force with us ending with an increase in our Part 1 crimes. We're not done with 2020 yet, so I don't want to, ruin anything, but everything else seems to be around the same where we were in 2019. For the last month, we've had 344 priority 1 calls, and we had 438 reports. We're still seeing, like I said, the car breaks have seemed to be leveling off, but they're still there. They're still there, and the scams, phone scams, we're still getting a lot of reports about people, getting either scammed by somebody is opening up, an account with the unemployment insurance, or reporting to us that, Social Security is calling them, or the IRS is calling them, or that a loved one is, being detained by the police somewhere and they need to send bail money, all different kinds of scams like that. We encourage people to report them to us. A lot of these are overseas, but if they're happening locally, we might be able to do an investigation on that. So we encourage people to report any of those scams, but be careful, extra careful, especially now with the holiday season. Package thefts is another thing. We're seeing an increase in package thefts. People are reporting that they're having Amazon deliveries or any kind of delivery, and they're being taken right off their front steps. We encourage, if you can, have a family member maybe take the delivery, or a neighbor that maybe you can entrust a neighbor into taking that delivery for you. So those are the big things, and we call them crimes of opportunity. If the opportunity is there for these people, they're going to take it. Package theft, scams, car breaks. If they see valuables in a car, if a car is unlocked, they're gonna take a chance and give it a try. So in the last month since we met last, we did have an attempted break-in up in the Orion Heights section up on Telegram Street. I don't believe they gained entry, but they tried. That was on December 1st. It's a little bit after we met the last time. That's under investigation. And that's all I really have for Orion Heights. Orion Heights is probably the biggest geographic area we have, but luckily it's the quietest and less crime than the rest of East Boston, where Eagle Hill is a little smaller, but we tend to see a little bit more of a crime concentrated there in Eagle Hill, Central Square, Maverick Square. But Orion Heights, for all purposes, especially with the Part 1 crimes, always seems to be quieter than the rest of East Boston. So you want just any questions in the chat or?
I don't see any questions at this moment. Maybe wait 5 seconds to see if someone wants to say anything, and then we'll just proceed on to the announcements. But
yeah, absolutely. And anyone can email me hopefully by now. You know, everyone has my email, and or if they send a question or a concern into you guys, just forward it to me. My email, I know Tony has my email. So just, you know, any questions, concerns, just forward it to me. And I know it's where we're working tough times here with these Zoom meetings. You guys are doing a great job. Love your website. Website's great. A lot of information. You guys are up and running. So, you know, hopefully everyone still gets to meet and communicate.
Well, I don't see anything else in the chat there, so I think you're off the hook for now. So
that's fine. Anytime, please forward it to my email or give me a call. My phone number, my cell phone number is at the bottom of my email. You know, anything comes up, let me know. If not, everyone have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I'll see you in January.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
All right, so we'll move on just to our announcements, and we do have a general presentation today. As Officer Simmons did mention, we do have a new website. It's in the agenda for today. If you'd like to go and check it out, have any comments about it, we'd love to hear it. It's just another interface for people to find us online, as well as a way to give information back to the community. You can find our bylaws and other items on there, meeting dates and those kinds of things. So please check it out if you get a chance. It's www.ohnc.org. And we'll throw that in the chat as well to make it easier for you to access. So one new announcement. Another announcement, just ongoing COVID testing efforts in East Boston. The East Boston Neighborhood Health Center has walkthrough testing at 79 Paris Street. You do not have symptoms or need to be a patient to go. There's a number in the agenda if you wanted to pre-register and call, and then the hours are also in the agenda. Monday through Friday, 8 to 11:30 and 1 p.m. to 4:30, and then Saturdays 10 to 1:30. There is also a link in the agenda as well for more information on that. And you can find that on our website as well, but also it'll be on the Facebook page, and we can post a link to East Boston Neighborhood Health Center's website as well in the chat. Moving on, there has been some talk of having a design review committee for Orient Heights to kind of look at developer submissions before they are presented to the group. We did get an email from Gail Miller, kind of interested in maybe spearheading that. What we'd like to do is have people who are interested in maybe being a part of that group to contact the Orient Heights Neighborhood Council at our email address, orientheightsnc@gmail.com, if you're interested to get involved, and then we can begin to connect interested parties into that who want to be part of the design review committee. I see a question from Richard here in the comments. I don't know if we have an answer to that. We're not sure about the process yet. We're gonna, I think, first form the committee and then kind of allow them to figure out what the process would be. Certainly, if there are changes, if you have suggestions, we can look at that. But this is just the sort of beginning process of this. I don't think there's anything too formal happening yet, except getting some interested parties involved. Okay, just answering questions from in the chat there with that. We do have a presentation too about the new waterfront at Pierce Park 3, and I'm wondering if anybody is here, Amy or Nick. I'm gonna look for you here. I see you, Amy, there you go. I'm gonna ask you to unmute. And Nick, I'm gonna ask you to unmute.
Right.
Hi,
Are we good to go,
everyone.
Noah? I think you're muted now.
I think we can hear both of you. Sorry.
Okay, good. Sorry, just double checking. Well, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Nick Black. I'm the managing director for the Boston Waterfront Initiative at the Trustees of Reservations. We just wanted to spend a few minutes with you guys this evening talking about this project that we've been working on for a while now in East Boston at Pierce Park Phase 3. Go over a little bit of the background and history of our where we are, how we got here, and then my colleague Amy is going to walk through some of the next steps moving forward. So, by way of background, again, my name's Nick. I'm with the Trustees of Reservations. We're a really old land conservation organization. We've been around for almost 130 years. And own and protect through conservation restriction about 120 different properties across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a total of about 27,000 acres that has a membership of about 2 million people on an annual basis, and that has a bunch of different programs that people take part in a regular non-COVID year. This is just a quick look at a map of all of the different properties that we have all across Massachusetts, everything from Provincetown to Pittsfield, north to south, working farms, beaches, hiking trails, a number of different variety or types of varieties of open spaces for people to enjoy that are all public for people to access. In Boston itself, we own and operate 56 community gardens, 2 of which are in East Boston. There's the Joe Chiampa Garden, which is across the street from Pierce Park, as well as the Eagle Hill Community Garden. And in addition to our Boston work, we also have a whole bunch of coastal properties that we operate and protect as well. So we have 120 miles of coastline, largest private landowner of coastline in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and have a keen interest in addressing some of the issues that we're all facing in terms of sea level rise, coastal change, things like that across our coast. And so we're also trying to focus and figure out what we can do here in Boston to help with those efforts as well. So my work is on the waterfront here in Boston. We, about 5 years ago, launched this initiative called the Boston Waterfront Initiative. We commonly refer to it as One Waterfront, with the idea that we were trying to bring about resilient green open space that's open to the public all along Boston's waterfront. Realizing that there were a lot of pressures along the waterfront, particularly from development and things that are coming in, that the opportunities were going to be few and far between to do that. And so we launched this initiative really with these 4 pillars that you see here, with the idea that we could create a world-class network of destinations around the harbor that really support a community, the community's needs and access to public open space along the waterfront. And again, want to really bring some value to those resiliency goals that we have here in Boston, knowing that we are facing the threats of increased tidal flooding and as well as from storm surge. And they're doing all this in a financially feasible way, which for us means we're, all of these places that we're looking to build, we're actually doing a lot of philanthropic fundraising right now and getting donors to contribute to the effort to actually create these places. And so through this process, we identified Pierce Park in East Boston as a place that had a lot of potential to fill a lot of those same pillars that we had laid out there. And so as I'm sure you're all very well aware, there's a fantastic park there already. Pierce Park was built back in the 90s. Massports undertook a public effort over the last couple of years to redesign and build out Pierce Park Phase 2, which is that upland piece that's in between the current park and the condominium building that was built there recently. And about that time, we started a conversation with Massport about what the plan was for that burnt out pile field of a pier that's sticking off into the harbor, and what the potential might be to form a public-private partnership with them to actually turn that into a park as well, which would, as you can imagine, dramatically increase the overall footprint of the Pierce Park complex. It's a fantastic spot in our mind because it is so central in the harbor. It's easy to access, particularly if we're able to increase some water transportation in the area. And it's got a fantastic view of the city as well as the harbor islands beyond. So we think it's a really unique opportunity for us to meet some of the goals that we had laid out. It does also sit in one of those sort of vulnerable flood spots, right where Pierce Park 2 is. And so working together with Massport, we're trying to figure out what we can do and what we can build here to really make this a place that's open for the public. It also has a fascinating history. This picture was taken in, I believe, 1925, about 100 years ago almost. This is what East Boston looked like back then. That light-colored building that you see there on the right is what we are talking about, Pierce Park Phase 2. This used to be a train yard where grain was brought in. There was obviously the grain elevator in the back. Was a very active industrial waterfront through much of the early to mid 20th century. But as it stands today, it's in complete and total disrepair. As I'm sure many of you are aware, it's falling apart. Chunks of it are floating away into the harbor. We spent a lot of 2019 doing a site investigation and survey work on the pier and piles themselves to understand what was there currently and to get a sense of what we might be able to do with it if we were to reimagine this place as a park. One of the things that we oftentimes look to for inspiration are other projects around the country and really around the world. And one of the themes that has emerged in the last 10 to 20 years in open space development is this idea of industrial reuse. In many cities around the country, there are old rundown pieces of industrial infrastructure that are on our harbors, on our waterfronts, in our cities that are no longer used for their originally intended purposes. And so using that as a model, that's where we started to think about what could happen in this old industrial site. One of those places that we do look to for inspiration is Brooklyn Bridge Park in New York City. I don't know if any of you have been there, but it's a fantastic set of actually 5 piers that are along the Brooklyn waterfront. In very much the same way that we saw in East Boston, these were all abandoned industrial piers that had long since stopped being used. And we're just basically cutting off the neighborhood from its really spectacular waterfront and the view from downtown Manhattan. The one that we really zeroed in on is Pier 1 in Brooklyn Bridge Park. This one is Pier 1 you see here is about 4.2 acres in total size. The Pierce Park Phase 3 in East Boston is about 3.6 acres. So they're pretty similar in size. And the design and makeup of this pier, as you can see, has a number of different really interesting elements in it that make it really sort of flexible in its programming. Has some larger open spaces, but also has lots of wooded walking trails. Has a really unique shoreline there with some of the rocks and the salt marshes that you see there. And these are some of the elements that we're really looking to for inspiration, and we think would be a great opportunity as we start to talk to the public and get some ideas for what people would like to see here at Pierce Park Phase 3. And so we're really talking about a landscape that's robust and resilient, one that can stand up to what we know will be increased threats from storm surge and sea level rise and tidal flooding in the coming years and decades, but also one that we can potentially even increase some of the native ecological habitat that you would have found at this location 300 years ago, before a lot of it was started being built out and a lot of those mudflats were starting to be filled in. What sort of green ecological elements can we bring to this location that does start to increase some habitat for whether it's shorebirds or fish or other sorts of sea life that not only would hopefully begin to propagate there, but do it in a way that actually allows access to the public to kind of get down to the water's edge and really see what's happening there and watch this environment and ecosystem change and grow. And then, of course, a big question is how it works with Pierce Park 1 and Pierce Park 2. As I'm sure many of you are aware, Pierce Park 1 is considered a passive park, one where there are a number of restrictions in terms of the types of activities that happen there. Pierce Park Phase 2 has always been considered to be an active park with some more, I guess, really active elements that they've put into that design, whether it's a basketball court or an open field for playing soccer or a variety of different games there. And so the question for us really is, what do we do that's complementary to those two parks, but then is also itself unique and different and an added benefit to the neighborhood? And so that's a big piece of our focus. As I mentioned before, we're really interested in trying to engage and activate the waterfront and understand what people would like to do if they could get down to the water in a bit of an easier fashion. We've got this beautiful harbor walk all around the city of Boston that really allows you to look out over the water, but there are very few opportunities to actually get down and engage with the water that we've all spent so much money over the last 20 years cleaning up. And so we think there's not only recreational potential here, but also just educational opportunities to really allow people to touch the water and engage with it in a way that they just don't have the ability to do right now. And then finally, another big key for us is how do we celebrate the diversity of the neighborhood that is East Boston and then the city of Boston as a whole. And so one of the big things that we're going to be doing over the next year or so is having a conversation with everyone in terms of not only what you would want to see here, but what would get you to come here in terms of the activities, the programming, the designs, the elements of the park itself. And so we really want to engage as many different communities as possible, do that in as many languages as possible, and find different ways to really get a real understanding and a buy-in from not only the East Boston community, but also the city as a whole for what they want to see here. And so that park really feels like it is their own. So what does all this look like? This is a concept that we pulled together that basically took some of those inspirational elements that we saw in Brooklyn. We are actually working, I should mention, with Michael Van Valkenburg and Michael Van Valkenburg and Associates. He's a landscape architect who did design Brooklyn Bridge Park. He's also done some work here in Boston. If any of you are familiar with the new Martin Richards Park that they built along Fort Point Channel, that is also one of Michael and his team built that one out. And so we started to kind of talk through what does all of this look like if we put it here in Boston Harbor. And so you kind of get a sense of that looking at this concept rendering where we're talking about that resilient ecological edge, a little bit more increased harbor access and engagement there. And then that flexible programming, that open lawn, the ability to do different types of activities, whether it's just, having an intimate personal picnic lunch there, or if, once things start moving in a better direction publicly, having a concert or an event or something else out on that lawn. Those are the kinds of things that we're thinking about. But then also just enjoying being out in the harbor with the amazing views, both of the city and out to the harbor islands and beyond from that particular location. So as I talked about, we've done a ton of research to get to this point, and now we're really excited to start the public process and to really start to learn what people would like to see here and hear from various ideas from people for ways that you would like to engage here. So we're kind of at the beginning of this project kickoff stage. And I'm going to turn over to Amy. She's the project manager on this project, and she's going to walk us through what to expect in the coming weeks and months. Amy? Oh, Amy's been muted.
All right, I'm looking for her 1 second.
Thank you.
There
So
we go.
that's my fault. I muted while Nick was talking just because there's always a lot going on in the background here. But hi, everyone. I'm Amy. As Nick said, I'm the project manager working with Nick on this Pierce Park 3 project. I'm an Eagle Hill resident. And we're excited to be here tonight to talk to you. As Nick said, we finished up sort of an initial research phase, and right now we're really excited to be kicking off the design phase because we can start hearing from the community about what you'd like to see in a new public park at Pierce Park 3, so that park design and program design can really reflect what we hear from you. So right now we've been presenting to neighborhood associations and friends groups and introducing ourselves in the project, making sure folks know who we are, how to reach us, and stay tuned for next steps and future meetings so that we can ensure we're hearing from you and gathering feedback from as many folks as possible as we go through this process. So we're really hoping to hear about the things you're interested in, what types of programming you might hope to see in a new park, concerns you might have about a new park, and as Nick mentioned, we definitely have some goals in mind that we'd like to hopefully bring to a new open space, things like addressing climate resiliency and thinking about creative ways to access the harbor and in a way that's not as possible along a lot of our waterfront here in East Boston or around the city. But within those goals that we're thinking about, there's a lot of different things we can do based on the community's interest. So we're excited really to be at this phase where we can start hearing that feedback. So as Nick said, we're really kicking off the design phase here, and we're going to be emphasizing community outreach all through the design process. So we're going to be hosting a series of meetings to be able to really hear from you. The first of which will be in January on the 12th and the 13th. So on the 12th, we'll host a meeting in English, and on the 13th, we'll host a meeting in Spanish. And during those meetings, we'll be able to go into some greater detail about the project itself, what's feasible at the site, and really then give folks more of a chance to engage in a conversation about what you're hoping to see in a new public park here, at the Pierce Park 3 site. So as I said, we'll launch that process, or sort of host that first couple of meetings in mid-January, but there will be a bunch more to come throughout the next year or so. And we'll also have a lot of ways where you can engage with us, online, offline, outside of the meetings as well. So always happy to hear feedback from folks, not just through the meetings, but we'll have some mechanisms up on our website also where you can engage and send in your thoughts and comments too. So we're hopeful that during the summer, we'll be able to do some more creative interaction and events and programs to sort of, interact with folks in person and hear some feedback that way also, and hopefully do some things that are maybe a little more fun than the Zoom. But either way, we'll be, like I said, making sure there's a bunch of different ways that that folks can send in their thoughts and feedback, so that we'll have, hopefully a robust engagement. That's what we're hoping for. So I will go ahead and put my email and our website in the chat. And a couple things you can do if you're looking to kind of stay in the loop on the process. We'll definitely be sharing out info as we go along with, all the neighborhood groups, as well as, putting things out there on social media, EC Times, and, hopefully sharing stuff out in a lot of different formats. We also have a blog on our website that you can sign up for to receive updates when we do update on the blog, and that way you'll get all that information that's coming out about meetings to come and events and programs and things like that. And you can always, as I said, you can always send over questions or comments or anything like that. Happy to hear from you. And so hopefully we've saved some time here for questions. And I just wanted to leave a note that if you have, other organizations you take part in, or groups that you're a part of that you think Nick and I should come talk to, we're happy to do that. So again, feel free to reach out to us. We want to be a resource as this process kicks off. And I'll go ahead and put that contact info in the chat, and that's all from me.
Well, thank you very much, Amy and Nick. We really appreciate the presentation. Excited to see what happens with that. At this moment, I don't see any questions in the chat. So I'll maybe wait just 1 or 2 seconds here to see if anything happens. But again, thank you so much for the presentation. That's very exciting to see some development happening there.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thanks again for taking the time. And then if any other questions do come up, they don't have to ask right away. You can always just get in touch with us, as Amy said, either via email or our website. We'll love to talk more.
Is there any way, there is one just question, like, can you just put when the meetings will be? I think Amy just did in the chat.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And as you guys move through the meeting, we'll drop the Eventbrite links in the chat too, just so you can go ahead and sign up directly there too, if you're interested.
And we will certainly, for everybody else, we will certainly include that this information in the meeting minutes. So you'll also have that when we post those and send those to via email. So again, thank you very much.
Wonderful, thank you.
We will move on to our development presentations. These are just information presentations. The first one we have is 90 Ashley Street to erect a two-family dwelling on a vacant lot. And I believe Derek Small is gonna, I'm gonna give, let's see here.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay, good. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Derek Small. I'm the attorney for the project. With us on the line also is Mr. Robert DeLeo, who is the owner of the property. We're here tonight to have a discussion with regard to our development project, well, Robert's development project to erect a two-family dwelling on a vacant lot that he owns right next to where he lives. He currently lives at 80 Ashley Street in East Boston. The zoning sub-district for this area is a 2F4000, and our lot size is 4,409 square feet. The two-family consists of a duplex. Each unit's approximately 1,740 square feet. It consists of 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom for each unit. I'll try sharing my screen to pull the project up. If I can do that. You guys with me?
We're with you.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for it to come up here. It's loading. Oh, here we go. And so you see my cursor on the screen. Again,
You're not sharing at the moment.
pardon me?
I don't think you're sharing at the moment.
Uh-oh. I pressed share screen, so let's see if we can. Do you, Mr. L, do you have it on your, I sent it to you and Tony, I think.
Let's see here. Are you unable to share? Is that what's happening?
Let me see, I press it again. Share screen, but that's all that's coming up, and that's not it.
Because it seemed like it started to work and then it came back. I'm not sure what happened.
All right, let me try it again. Let me, try something else here. Sorry for this. Can you see it now?
No, I'm not seeing it right now.
Okay. Press and share screen. And let me see. Let's try. It's not coming up for some reason. No, it's not coming up.
Someone's asking, is it a PDF or a PowerPoint?
It's a PDF, yes. And I sent it to you guys.
Let's see. So, oh, here we go. Starting now. Maybe.
This is, yeah.
We're getting some. Okay. We're seeing your screen. It's just we don't quite see the PDF yet. I think it's happening now.
Yeah, I think it's loading.
Okay.
It's spinning. Can you see it now?
I see it now, yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, no problem.
So again, these are the plans for two-family dwelling at 90 Ashley Street. The first item shown here is the site plan. This entire property is the vacant lot. As I said, it's 4,409 square feet. Robert D'Elia and his wife Deb currently own 80 Ashley Street, and they own the property here at 90, which they're sticking to build the two-family. Okay, so on this slide here it shows the footprint. Yeah, there it is. Here, we did receive a ISD refusal letter, and we have a couple of violations that we're going to be seeking variances for. One of which is the lot frontage. As you can see where my cursor is here, they're measuring the lot frontage requirement is 40 feet. They're measuring here from where I'm showing as 31 feet, but we do have this slant here, which is approximately another 21 feet. So across the lot frontage altogether, it's a total of 52 feet. That current violation is in dispute, as we have been talking with the plans examiner about that. With regard to the other violations, the FAR is excessive. The required FAR for this area is 0.8. Our two-family at approximately 1,747 square feet is going to push the proposed FAR to 1.2. We do have a side yard setback violation on the side next to Mr. Giuseppe and Rob Caviello. The requirement on the side yard is 7 feet. We have 5. We had an abutters meeting, and Mr. Giuseppe Caviello had expressed some concern about the 5-foot setback on that side that we're proposing. I know that side on his property is his driveway. So we have the 10 feet plus the 5 that we are proposing, which would put it at about 15 feet away from the side of his building, because his driveway is on that side of the property. The other side, next to the family, the Leo family on this side, is also at 5 feet. The rear yard setback, the requirement is 40 feet. In the back here, we have 23.5 feet from the deck or the back of the building to the lot line here. The other violation that we are being cited for is the East Boston iPod, which means it has to go through design review with the BPDA. And it has a flood, it is a flood hazard district, and we do have an approval from the Boston Conservation Commission. I'll scroll down and go through the proposed floor plan. That first picture here is just the foundation plan as it goes around the property. The first level plan here shows a living area here, dining area here, and the kitchen here. That's the second floor level, or the first floor level, excuse me. And again, it's a duplex, so you have one side here, which is one unit, and the other side here, which is the other unit. They're exactly the same unit on both sides. We're going to go up to the second level, and here you'll see we have 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. There's no proposed living space in the basement, and there's no proposed living space in the attic as well. Now, in the attic area here, as you can see on both sides, it's where we're keeping all the mechanicals, the HVAC, hot water heaters, and things of that nature, upstairs in the attic area. So again, there's no living space in the attic, and there's no living space in the basement. What we're showing now here is the front elevation. As you have the duplex, 1 unit on one side, the other on the other, 2-family. This side here is the side view from the right side, with the decks coming off the back and the front entrance here. And then I'm going to scroll down a little bit more, and you can see the rear elevation here coming out into the backyard, deck across for both on the second floor, and then the entry level on the first floor in the backyard for the rear elevation. This is just the side elevation again from the left side of the property, showing the front and then the rear decks here and the front here facing on Ashley Street. That's about it for the presentations. We can open it up for questions and answers, and have people chime in with questions or concerns.
Sure, we have at least one question, I think one sort of statement. We have a question. Can you explain who owns the triangular portion of land that's it's in front of the 31-foot portion of the frontage roads there near Whitby? So there's that, I'm looking at a map here myself. There's between Ashley and Whitby, there's that triangular shaped piece of land.
I'm trying to see if I can pull it up on
I don't know
the
if it's on these plans.
Is it here?
Yeah, I mean, it's just off to the right there.
Yeah, that's Mr. DeLeo's property as well, right here in front of his
No,
property.
sorry, but it's on it. There's a triangular shaped piece of land that's kind of just beyond that property on Whitby.
Oh, I don't know who owns that. Here?
I guess it's right there.
Because Mr. DeLeo's property at 80 comes all the way across.
Right, and then there's some properties to the right of that, but I think it's
Exactly.
just forward of that. There's a kind of a triangular shaped property. I don't think there's anything on it at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think we own it, but I can look into that. But there's nothing proposed for that site at this time.
So we do have a few more questions that are popping up in the chat here. Let me see here. How many variances are you seeking? Do you have
Rear yard, side yard, FAR, lot frontage. And of course the iPod and the flood hazard district, which we have the approval of the Boston Conservation.
So it's sort of like 5 or 6 kind of
Yes.
depending on, okay.
3, 4, 5, yeah, 6.
I think people are just asking for the next time we present a sort of a written line item of those variances.
Oh yeah, I think I sent the refusal letter when I sent the plans to Tony, but I don't scroll down. I don't think I have it here in this site plan.
Okay.
No.
I'm gonna go through.
But I could send that to you.
Sure. I think just people would like a list to look at a list of those.
Yep.
I guess, and then there's do you have a drawing with the proposed building and neighboring homes? I think, I don't know if this is just a plan view, or if they're looking for heights in this as well.
No, I don't have, I just have the floor plans here. But again, we are not seeking a variance for height because we're staying within the 35-foot high height requirement.
What is the height of the building?
I'll pull up the elevation right now. Yeah, we weren't cited for height.
And I can't read it on my screen, the top of roof there. I don't think we can hear you.
I said, I'm trying to pull it up.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, we weren't cited for height violation.
I think we're just people are just curious what the height is. We have put a PDF, this PDF for viewing in the chat, so people on their own could go and look and try and look for the height in there as well. I think that is
40, it looks like it's 40, 45. But again, we weren't cited for height. I can send you the.
okay. Well, we'll go with 45 for now, and then again, the PDF is in the chat, so if people want to look at that, they're free to do that.
Yeah.
There also is just a statement from a direct abutter who wanted to be read out. So I'm just going to take a moment to read that real quick. So please bear with me here, everybody. This is from Giuseppe Coviello, and I apologize if I did not say that correctly. I've resided on the same property in Orient Heights since immigrating to East Boston from Italy for over 50 years ago, and the proposed development at 90 Ashley Street shares its entire side boundary with my property. As such, my property will be directly impacted by the unnecessary side setback variance being sought, and I would like to express the reason for my opposition to the setback variances requested by the proposal. I've discussed these concerns with Mr. DeLeo, who is my neighbor and the owner of the proposed development. And although we're friendly neighbors, we have differing views on the current proposal. The proposed development site is a 50-foot wide lot, similar to many of the surrounding lots, including my own. A two-family structure conforming to the 7-foot side setback requirement set forth in Article 53 could be built on this property, but instead the current plan unnecessarily seeks to invade the required side setback from my property. Each foot that the structure needlessly encroaches upon the required side setback area is one less foot of privacy, one more foot of density, and a further reduction in view. The zoning code specifies the minimum required property boundary buffer in order to maintain spacing between abutting properties such as my own, and I respectfully urge that this setback requirement established in Article 53 be respected. The unnecessary variance requested by this proposal needlessly places the structure within the required side setback from my property and is in direct contrast with the rights and interests that the zoning code is intended to protect. Because of this, I oppose the plan as currently submitted. Thank you, and Giuseppe Coviello. That person had asked that I read that, so I just wanted to make sure I got that in as well. And I'm happy to read off any additional comments or questions about this project or any.
Just one comment on that. We have been in conversations, as he said, with Mr. DeLeo and Mr. Caviolo have been in discussions with regard to the side yard setback. And we are taking a look at perhaps moving the building to the right 2 feet, or figuring out a way to configure it so we do meet the 2 foot variance that we're asking. Again, the side yard setback requirement is 7 feet. We're at 5. And again, on that side of his property is his driveway. And so he has 10 feet between the driveway and the property line. And then it will be another 5 feet. So it'll be 15 feet, approximately 15 feet away from his actual building, because his driveway is on that side. So we will continue to have dialogue with Mr. Coviello about that. And I know Mr. Robert DeLeo, who's on the line as well, as his neighbor, will also have continued discussion. And I've had conversation with Mr. Coviello's son, Robert, about this as well. So there is ongoing dialogue between the parties.
We have another question about the off-street parking situation. I don't know if you can elaborate on that as well.
And so we are proposing parking in the front of the building. I don't know if my screen is still being shared, but
it is.
Right in the front of the building, we are proposing to have 2 parking spaces, as there are other properties along Ashley Street that have parking spaces in the front of their properties as well. So we do have off-street parking.
Okay, so I'm looking to see if there's any other comments. I don't see anything at the moment. One more, hold on. One more comment is, will we know the final placement of the building before voting and whether the side setback will be required?
We are looking at that now. I don't know if it's going to be possible, but we're working with the architect to see if that's feasible.
Okay. Thank you.
And again, we will continue to have our conversations with Mr. Coviello regarding his concern for the side yard setback. Again, the requirement is 7 and we have 5. So the difference is about 2 feet.
So one more comment
Sure.
is from Mr. Coviello, whether the abutting property is a vacant lot or a residence with a driveway that was developed in accordance with the setback requirements, as is the case for my lot, the layout of my abutting property does not grant a special privilege to the proposed development that allows it to violate its own setback obligation. So
Yep, we are clear on that again, and that's why we seek the variance.
well, I think positions are clear here. So I know you guys are working somewhat
Yeah.
together. So hopefully you'll be able to find some compromise here. And one more thing is a confirmation of the height and whether or not is a variance. I believe you said you were not getting a variance for the height of the
No,
building.
we are not seeking a variance for the height, as we were not cited for that in the zoning code refusal letter that we have from ISD. And I will send the refusal letter to the group.
We will include that in the meeting minutes, and that was.
Yeah.
So I think there's some confusion if the height is 35 and if the height was 35 or if it is 40. I don't know if can you?
Yeah, the plan is showing a 45-foot height on the.
I believe there's some confusion from people if 35 is the limit and we have a building height of 45.
It's here. So 40, showing 45. But let me get clarification on the requirement.
So
Because like I said, we weren't cited for it.
So you'll provide clarification on the height of the building, and we will provide
I will.
to our members.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Without a doubt.
I think. So I think that is it, and I think we'll move on now to the next development. Thank you very much, Derek.
Oh yes, thank you guys. Thank you guys for having us. We greatly appreciate the time, and we look forward to meeting with you again regarding this project.
I think if you unshare, and I will.
Yeah, and I will forward that information to you as well.
We appreciate it, so we can
I'm gonna
get
track it down right now.
And the next development is at 1209 Bennington Street. It's to raise an existing building and erect a 4-story, 7-unit residential dwelling with parking for 5 vehicles. And let me find you and unmute you. Give me 1 second. There we go.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go right ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President, and through to the members. For the record, I'm Attorney Richard Linz. I'm here tonight on behalf of Crespo Construction. That's Ricky and Joshua Crespo, brothers, East Boston residents, with respect to the property at 1209 Bennington Street. This is an initial presentation for this particular project. We have not yet made an abutters presentation. And again, this is our first presentation to the community. So I'm going to run through the presentation, ask that you hold your questions till the end, and we will answer the questions at the end of the proposal. So our proposal is to demolish an existing two-family dwelling that is sitting on a 5,000 square foot lot. There's also an existing garage to the rear of the property that we would also be demolishing. This would involve the construction of a new 4-story, 7-unit residential dwelling with a total of 5 parking spaces. The units would include 4 2-bedroom units and 3 3-bedroom units. The 2-bedroom units are generously sized, as well as the 3-bedroom units. And this is intended for home ownership, which would be sold as individual condominium units. This is a bird's eye view overview of the site. Commercial property along the upper portion of Bennington Street, located on the opposite side of the screen, the lower part of your screen, and 1209 Bennington located here. And you can see the existing garage to the rear of the property. A couple of different angles. If looking a little bit closer to a head-on angle, you see the front of the building here. It's separated by a driveway on both sides of the property. So the setback for the existing structure to the left is pretty well set back, probably about 10 and a half feet. And there's about a 10 and a half, 11-foot setback between the property to our right presently. Looking up towards Beachmont, just a different view, so you can see the relationship of this building to the surrounding buildings. And then looking back towards Orient Heights. So just a context photo. I do have some different photos here as well. It's a context photo of what we see here. The building is just hidden partially behind this tree, but you can see the existing driveway located here. It's a better view of the building here. Again, about a 2.5-story building with, again, about a 10 to 10 and a half foot setback in the driveway. Looking back up, you can see the left side of the building here. This is our abstract from the Boston Planning and Development Agency. Our lot width is 50 feet along Bennington Street, 100 feet deep. You see the shading here showing the 2 structures that presently exist on the lot. And as we said, we would be demolishing both of those structures in place of the new structure. So our proposed site plan, and I'll probably have a better detailed version of this, but just to show you again where our setbacks are at. 10.5-foot setback here is the distance between the lot line and the proposed structure. And again, it's generally consistent with what's presently existing there, and this setback would be compliant. We are showing about a 4.3-foot setback on the left side. The current condition is already non-conforming. We do shade in here some of the existing structure. So although we are requesting a variance for the left side, we are pretty much in line with where the building is at today. So we're not coming any closer to the property line. In fact, we might be pulling back a little bit with respect to portions of this building. So we're looking here at the ground level, units 1 and unit 2. Both units 1 and unit 2 are 2-bedroom units. You can see the varying layouts here. Unit 2, a little smaller than unit 1. And one of the reasons is we do have 2 of the parking spaces, and those are compact size spaces tucked in behind the building. Compact size spaces have to be at least 7 feet wide by 18 feet in depth. We are showing units 3 and 4. These are a bit larger. Unit 3 at 910 square feet with 2 bedrooms, and unit 4 with 3 bedrooms total. When we come up to the 3rd level, we have unit 5 and unit 6. Again, unit 5, similar to the one below it, at 2 bedrooms, and unit 6 with 3 bedrooms. And then finally, the 4th floor plan, which is the uppermost unit, has 3 bedrooms, including a master bedroom, and a deck off of the rear of the building. And that's not necessarily a deck that goes above the 4th level. This is built above the 3rd level and actually pulls the 4th level of this of the structure back closer towards Bennington Street. We're not proposing a roof deck on the top level of the buildings. There is no head house, and certainly no roof deck being built or proposed above that. We do show our building height, and actually we're showing it, it's actually a little bit higher at 41 feet, if you can see it from here. And then we're measuring that from the rear portion. And I'll go over that a little bit more detail with the rendering to show what the materials look like. So our side elevation is showing here, again, better view of the 41-foot height limit as measured from grade. We do show windows on the left side of the building. And as I said, that roof deck that's accessible for that upper level unit is actually above the 3rd level. We're not proposing anything above the 4th level. And again, showing the right side of the building, you do see that inset here for the 2 compact parking spaces. I should jump back to the site plan just quickly to make sure we show you where all the parking is at. We show parking space 3, 4, and 5 to the rear of the property, and those are full-size parking spaces. Those measure at least 8.5 in width by 20 feet in depth. So that's where we're getting our total of 5 parking spaces as described. So the rendering here, and this is the first pass at the rendering, is to try to capture some of the elements that we do see in the surrounding neighborhood. The building immediately to our right, you do see some of these bump outs and bays, and Joy Street does a very good job at looking at some of the precedent and architectural details that exist in the neighborhood and try to incorporate those into their design. This does have some modern and contemporary feeling to it. If you look at these windows with the frames, a little bit different than what you typically see on a building like this size. But the modified mansard roof, as well as some of this cornice line, certainly has some elements that are consistent with what you might see in and around the neighborhood. A couple of Juliet balconies off of the side here, and again, keeping that setback from the building to our right, consistent with what's there already today, and then the same on the left side based upon where the existing structure is. So this is located at 2F 5,000 zoning district. We're proposing 7 units, and in order to do that, you must obtain a variance. So there is a variance request for the use that's being proposed. The lot size and the lot width and frontage already comply with the zoning code. So there is no zoning relief that's necessary for that. Our side yard is 4.3 feet on the left and 10.5 feet on the right, as I showed you on the site plan. So therefore, you get a 5.7 foot variance on the left side. However, the existing condition that's already there is allowed to continue because that structure predates the current zoning code. We have a front yard setback. We'll be proposing what's called a modal front yard setback, and that's an exception under the zoning code that allows you to align your building with the other buildings along Bennington Street. And we're going to take advantage of that exception and meet the requirements of a modal setback. The floor area ratio that we're proposing is a 1.48 in relationship to the amount of square footage we have. The amount of square footage we have in relationship to the amount of land we have gives you your floor to area ratio. 0.6 is the maximum in the 2F 5,000 district, so a variance would be necessary for that. Our building sits technically at 4 stories, 41 feet. It's 2.5 story, 35 feet is the maximum. I would point out to you that there are a number of buildings already in this area. This would not be the first more than 2.5 story building in the neighborhood. So our proposal would be a slight increase above the actual allowable height limit of 35 feet for a total of 6 feet above the limit. So a variance would be requested for that. There is no minimum open space requirement in the 2F 5,000 district when you're proposing anything more than 2 units. And so therefore the open space requirement, regardless of what you're proposing, would be sufficient. And last but not least is parking. We are proposing a total of 5 off-street parking spaces. 9 spaces would be required when you do the calculations of the zoning code. But I also would point out the proximity to Suffolk Downs T Station actually suggests through Boston Transportation Department's policy, when you're building new housing near public transportation nodes, that to consider to have a lesser amount of parking, and 75% is the recommended maximum parking on a site like this when you're proposing housing near public transportation nodes. So we are going to request a variance to parking as well. We submitted this long form permit application on October 22nd. We're moving through the process. We've obtained a refusal letter on November 4th. We submitted a petition to the Board of Appeals requesting relief for the variances we just discussed. That was done on November 4th. And we're now in the community process stage of this review. And that includes an abutters meeting and the neighborhood association meetings, which is ongoing. We ultimately will have a hearing before the zoning board. We expect that to be sometime likely later this winter, early spring 2021. That's tentative, that's not set until we complete our abutters meeting. And then we'll go through what's called BPD design review before we get our permit issuance. And that's assuming we even get the approvals from the zoning board first. That would probably occur sometime in summer 2021. If that were to occur, that's when construction would likely commence. And then completion would be sometime in spring of 2022. So with that, I am happy to address any comments or questions.
Thank you, Rich, for the presentation. Few things in the chat. Someone was asking, Gail was asking about what are the rear measurements of the building.
The rear, I'm
I
sorry.
don't know if she means the offset or maybe you just give the offset and at the back.
Yeah, so the total height of the building is 41 feet.
I'm not sure. I guess she's asking though the rear measurement. I'm not sure if she's asking between that and what's behind it. That makes sense. The setback. Can you? Do you have the rear setback?
Sorry, I was muted there. I
Yeah,
don't know what
sorry.
happened. Sorry about that. Yeah, I actually do. Hold on, let me jump
Yeah.
to the site plan. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think it's about 30 feet is the rear setback. Let me just jump to the site plan. Yeah, 29 feet 2 inches, and the required would be 40. So I that might have got merged into my zoning slide, but yeah. So a variance for the rear setback as well, for about 10 feet.
Thank you. And so I think you had it in your presentation, but the abutters meeting, do you have the date for that?
We don't yet. We've just requested a series of abutters meetings with the Office of Neighborhood Services, and once we have that, we will provide the notification as required by ONS.
I'm just seeing what else we have here. Some people have been concerned about the height. We did put the zoning code in the chat there regarding the height. What else we have here?
Yeah, the height is 41 feet. I have the side elevation which shows 41 feet here.
And there's a variance for that as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this is 3 3/4 story. I would say the line dividing line is probably right here. The city doesn't look at anything over 2.5 stories and any more half stories. So this would be considered a 4-story building, and it all depends upon how we adjust our foundation. And to the extent that we can adjust this so that not more than 65% is above grade, that would actually decide where the first story is. In this initial pass, because we're setting the foundation at grade or the lowest level at grade, it would be considered a 4 story. So there's ways to adjust that. 41 feet for a height is 6 feet above the height limit. It's certainly above the 35-foot allowable limit, but not a tremendously. It's not even considered a full story above by way of height.
Are there does somebody currently live in the building, in the existing building?
Not that I'm aware of. My client is the prospective purchaser. The owner may still live there, but my understanding is it's either vacant or no tenants in the property.
Okay. Someone saying yes, there's, I think.
Yeah, I don't represent the owner. I represent Crespo Construction. So the owner may still live in the property. That's what I said. I'm not sure. I don't believe the building's tenanted, but it may still have the owner.
I don't see any other questions regarding this. So I think we're not voting today, so this is just a information presentation. So
yeah, so my plan would be to hold the abutters meeting at some point, and then to come back if there are any changes. Obviously, we'll update the neighborhood council with respect to those changes based upon what we hear at the abutters meeting, and hopefully request a vote at a future meeting once the abutters meeting is concluded.
okay. I don't see anything else. So thank you very much for the presentation.
If I can just respond. So I do see
Yeah.
there was one question relative to, say, the GVW construction.
Just
Yeah, I actually represent that project as well. That's not been approved yet. That still has to go through the process. So that's not necessarily etched in stone at this point. There is a project already approved at the Auto Doctor. There's I think it's 43 units. We handle that project as well, and that's a four plus story building.
which is across the street. Is that correct?
Right, it's on the same side of the street as this project, but further up, closer to the former casket company.
Gotcha. I don't see any more questions, so I think we'll end here on that. Again, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
We don't have any more presentations today. There's no voting for anything today. Our next meeting will be on January 19th, which is a Tuesday because of the holiday on the 18th. If you have not signed in yet, there are links in the chat so we can verify attendance, which will help us with voting matters. Otherwise, I will let everybody go to enjoy the rest of their evening. Thank you so much for attending.